buy and hold investor here for a little over 3 years.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to day 2 of Blue Ocean Strategy. Today we're going to be talking about chapters 4 through 6 of Blue Ocean Strategy, and then next week we're going to be finishing up the book with the last 3 chapters. It's about 100 pages for next week, so it shouldn't be too bad. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to our guy Ralph. I don't know if you guys know Ralph's, but he got us this shirt. His company is Invest, right there, Invest. And he just launched a bunch of merchandise. It's all based on, you know, entrepreneurship and, of course, American Dream, all that. So hit up his site and make an order if you guys like the look of that. What do you guys think about the book so far? Any comments on the first 2 days? Or the first 6 chapters?
I would say it's definitely interesting. I think the first part was more interesting to me, just, you know, being a real estate agent / investor. That's it's more about the ideas of it. You know, I think this was more based on like a big company and having a huge staff and all that. But if it's kind of just you, the ideas I think were more relevant to me in the first part. And this is more, if I ran a big company, it would be more beneficial. But I think it's good.
Right, totally agree. Anybody else have anything on the first couple chapters? Any takeaways? Any ahas? So I agree with you, Pat. I think especially this middle section, it's a lot of how-to on you know, on getting your team on board and all that. So that's kind of the great part about reading something like this and analyzing it, you know, while you're at the beginning stages of your business or while you're a new business, you know, maybe under 10 million, because then you can easily move the ship, you know, when you have everything set in place. It can be harder. So I think it definitely still fits with what we do, and it may be to where what you're doing isn't what you're going to be doing in 5 or 10 years, you know, because you may see an opportunity within the marketplace. I think one of the benefits of running your own self-employed business, you know, whether you're a wholesaler, real estate agent, or something else, is you learn how to be an entrepreneur. You learn how to be a business owner. You may be in it for 5 or 10 years and be like, you know what, I don't really like real estate that much, but I do know how to run a business. And so when you do that, you can break off any other segment. Maybe within your real estate business, you see another industry where you're like, wow, you know, that's underserved, or, you know, that's a really easy way to run a business. Like, you know, so for example, we were talking about if you do a lot of real estate rehabs, or if you're a builder like us, what about owning a dumpster company, right? I mean, you know the logistics, you know the customer, you know a lot about it, so you may be able to have success if you just go find that hole in the market. You know, where is there, and your market is probably different than other people's markets as well. So go to other markets and see what they're doing, you know, in your industry, and then take it home to you and say, hey, you know, they're doing it differently over here, and that could be your opportunity. That could be your blue ocean. So let's get started. The dawn is in the house. All right, chapter 4, focus on the big picture. Nope, we're not on 4. We're on 6. No, we are on 4. I'm on 6. Let me back up. So we're on the second chapter of formulating your blue ocean strategy. So it's the second section in the book. All right, focus on the big picture, not the numbers. All right, I'm going to try not to get in the weeds too much, guys. So let's talk about this instead of just going through it. So the second principle is to focus on the big picture, not the numbers. The principle is this principle is key to mitigating the planning risk of investing lots of effort and lots of time, but delivering only tactical red ocean moves. Here we develop an alternate approach to the existing strategic planning process that is based not on preparing a document, but on drawing a strategy canvas. So again, focusing on the big picture. A company and its managers focus their main attention on the big picture rather than becoming immersed in numbers and jargon. Drawing a strategy canvas does three things. It shows the strategic profile of an industry by depicting very clearly the factors. It shows the profile of the current potential competitors, and it shows the strategic profile or the value curve. Let's see here. I have a few notes on this. So, I mean, basically, this is really fancy for you need to take a look at your business and evaluate it. What direction are you moving in? Let's see. Does anybody have anything on that one? I'm just going through my notes real quick. So they talked about 3 complementary qualities: focus, divergence, and a compelling tagline. They talked about that in the previous chapters, and that's going to come up several times. So what is your focus? You know, do you have a core focus on something that you're focusing on in your business within your industry, and then working on that compelling tagline? They always keep going back to that one. All right, your visual awakening. Asking executives to draw the value curve of their company's strategy brings home the need for change. The pictures can clearly reveal defects in the company's strategy. The pictures also, so on the pictures they're talking about is when they had their leadership group take a look at it. So the 4 steps, I believe, is next. All right, so the 4 steps of visual awakening: visual exploration, where you go into the field and explore the 6 paths; visual strategy fair, you get your team together and you strategize; and then visual communication, distribute your before and after profiles. So again, this is something that, this is one of the parts when I was reading, it's like, I know it does not apply to a lot of us. So let's just talk about it within our businesses. So have you guys, since reading this book, have you been looking out at your industry and analyzing it? Any experience there on how you can move from a red ocean? Because all the businesses we're in, man, they are red oceans. There's a lot of people doing it, and there's a lot of people doing the same thing. So have you thought about, you know, moving into a different segment within your industry? Anybody?
Chris, I know that me and my partners have been looking at some different implementations that we can do. I mean, I'm thinking outside the box, especially during this time with like low restrictions. And it gets even harder as you're in different markets when it comes to real estate. But we've been able to get some real gems, and maybe where most of our concentration was on single family, now we have a lot of commercial deals and industry deals that are coming in together, or promising like land development, or more out of state niches that we have in tourist homes, like failed Airbnbs, turning them into rentals or lease options. There's always stuff that you can do as long as you think outside the box. And really, I mean, that's what you're going to have to do to survive a lot of things that happen and change really fast. If you're not able to be malleable and think outside the box, I mean, any little hiccup, any speed bump is going to kill your business.
That's a great point, JT. So especially, I mean, I don't know when it's going to come, but we're going to have an extreme movement in our market. You know, we're going to have a bad market. We're going to have foreclosures. We're going to have to work with banks. We're going to be looking at short sales again. So maybe moving in, getting ready, preparing to move into those and being a specialist in it. I mean, if short sales aren't the easiest to negotiate. So the really good companies who have the experience, you know, they're the ones that are going to actually get them closed. You were talking about out of state, JT. how many people during this pandemic have had to work online, even if they're buying within their own market, right? So if you can work virtually in your own market, why can't you work virtually in another market? And so if you are in the Phoenixes of the world, if you are in the more competitive cities, Houston's competitive, going to more rural areas and just being able to do that remotely, going virtual, going to other markets. Like we went to the Cleveland market because it's a much more active market and it has more of the properties that we're looking for. So that's good stuff. Anybody else have anything on that? On just visually looking at your industry, exploring other options, and then, you know, just kind of brainstorming that. Like what else, how else, where can you niche in your market? Where can you get away from, I mean, for example, like again, in real estate, how many people have gone to a appointment and the dude has a seller appointment and the guy has a stack of letters that big, right? I mean, very, very common because everybody's doing the same thing. Nobody's differentiating themselves. So any thoughts on that? I know we have salespeople and we have investors as well in here. So, no, all right, no problem, no problem. We'll move forward. Let's see, overcoming the limitations of strategic planning. Building the process around a picture addresses many of the manager's discontents with existing strategic planning. So let's see, at some stage, numbers and documents must be compiled and discussed. This doesn't really apply. Let's move forward. Chapter 5, reach beyond. Oops. Hold on, let me see if I have any notes on that. So yeah, I talk a lot about putting your review groups together. All right. They talked about pioneers, settlers, and migrators. A company's pioneers are the businesses that offer unprecedented value. These are your blue ocean offerings, and they are the most powerful sources of profitable growth. Next are the settlers, who are businesses whose value curves conform to the basic shape of the industry. These are the Me Too businesses. They are stuck within the red ocean. And then lastly is your migrators. They lie somewhere in between. Such businesses extend the industry's curve by giving customers more for less, but they don't alter its basic shape. So it's the difference between being a settler and a pioneer. Revenue, profitability, market share, and customer satisfaction are all measures of a company's current position. Those measures cannot point the way to the future, though. So that's why they really focus on strategy. Reach beyond existing demand. The third principle is just that, reach beyond existing demand. This is a key component of achieving value innovation. By aggregating the greatest demand for a new offering, this approach attenuates the scale risk associated with creating a new market. To achieve this, companies should challenge two conventional strategy practices. One is the focus on existing customers, and the other is to drive for finer segmentation to accommodate buyer differences. The tier of non-customers, your first tier is closest to your market. They sit on the edge of the market. They are buyers who minimally purchase an industry's offers out of necessity, but they are mentally non-customers of the industry. Isn't that most of the people in our world as real estate people? I mean, most people, a huge majority, are not in a buying or selling mood, you know, at any given time. Do you agree there? You know, it's very specific for, you know, it's, people don't always need to buy or sell a house. They are, they get to that one, you know, very infrequently within their lives.
Yeah,
The
that's
sec-
super true. I
yeah.
totally agree. Totally agree, Chris.
So yeah, that's a more difficult market to reach, and it's a different market to reach. Second tier non-customers. The second tier of non-customers is people who refuse to use your industry's offerings. These are buyers who have seen your industry offerings as an option to fulfill their needs, but have voted against them. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit. Who are some non-tier customers? So right now, get away from just I buy distressed property and just kind of think of the whole real estate community as a whole. Where can you? They talked in the book. They talked about timeshares, right? People wanted a nice place to stay, and that's how timeshares. And really, they broke it down to where how could we buy really expensive property and have normal average Joes afford to go there, right? It was more a lot of the affordability in it. Where else can you go? So I'm going to get specific. They're talking about how millennials and new younger people coming up, they don't want to own, they want to rent. How can you turn them into customers? Those are non-customers. They've already said we're not going to do it. So how would we go out there and research and find out why are they saying that? You know, who's a good person to reach out to on that? Anybody? Anybody have an idea or thought on that?
I think it's based off all the information that you see out there. And this is talking from like a real estate background, like with seeing Zillow. If millennials are presented with a lifestyle that they don't want to have or are scared of, then they're going to want to continue to find more information until it applies to them. And then it'll switch, you know, to wanting to invest. There's just so much not out there to not invest or not to, you know, to keep renting or whatnot. And it's a safer option. So until they see that it's a better option to invest, the trend will go that way.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, right now they're saying, no, we don't want to do it. We don't want to own. We don't want to do this. So we need to go out to them and say, why don't you want to own? You know, what is the reason behind that? Oh, well, I want to be able to move at my leisure. Okay. So where can you move the industry to where they are going? You know, if that's going to be the majority of people, do you just move to say, hey, I'm just going to own more real estate so I can rent to these people? Or are we going to find a new way to entice them to want to be an owner? Or maybe it's partial ownership, or maybe it's pooling, or, you know, you never know. So just, I don't know, just think about that. You know, how can you change your industry? Not, you know, don't look at it so linearly, like, you know, how do I, you know, I'm only finding properties with distressed sellers, or I'm only finding buyers and sellers for regular retail real estate. You know, how can you go out next to that market
And present them all with all different options. So like when I meet with a buyer, I tell, you know, because a lot of them will be like, well, what if I want to sell and I can't sell? And I'm like, well, you can rent it out, you can Airbnb it, there's so many more options than just, you know, than just not being able to sell.
Absolutely. Okay, the next is third tier non-customers. The third tier non-customers is the furthest from your market. They are non-customers who have never thought of your market offering as an option. By focusing on key commonalities across these non-customers and then existing customers, companies can understand how to pull them into their new market. Interesting. Can anybody give me an example of someone like that in their market? Who's a non-customer? Who would never even think about buying from you? Where's your lifetime renters?
Chris, would this be like, let's say an area is 90% renters? Would you be able to do like a seller financing to move them towards a ownership of the home instead? Like, would that be along those lines? Is that what I'm
Yeah, I think,
understanding.
yeah, I mean, that may be tier 2, that may be tier 3, but that's a great point. So going and turning the people who have always rented, just going in there and then educating them, that could be your niche. And then, yeah, figuring out how to sell or finance. I mean, education, it's crazy. So we're in Cleveland, and these people could buy these duplexes retail, and then so the duplexes are the retail, they could buy them for anywhere between 50 and 100,000, and the other person in that place, most people rent for $500 to $600 a month. Like, that'll pay for their payment. So if they just bought it, they would own it and they wouldn't have to pay any rent. So yeah, but that takes education. But that's certainly out of the that's much more of a blue ocean, because how many customers do you have for that? Like, that's kind of every renter. There are so many people, and a lot of people, regular real estate agents, they're not, or investors, they're not going after that customer base at all. So yeah, that's a good point.
I was thinking the older ones, Chris, when you said renting, that's not normally, might not be in your market of like either a new buyer or distressed buyer. But you have a lot of these older ones who are baby boomers or older. They're these senior ones who don't mind living in a nicer community. You know what I mean? So you have a lot of these assisted living places that are a little bit more a la carte, I guess you would, that kind of seem like, nice condo type options. I remember listening to a guy talking about how he was moving his whole business to this like 4 or 5 years ago. I was like, oh, wow, I really haven't heard anybody else doing that. But you look at the ages, our big bulk of age right now is that market, you know what I mean? So, owning that niche, seeing the future is, I guess, that blue ocean mindset.
That's a great point, JT. Yeah, absolutely. Well, how about this? Imagine you're a regular fix and flipper, but what if you change and imagine this, guys, like JT said, there's all these people we have an aging community. Every single day our community gets older and older and older, because my parents are over 65, and they're just they're chilling, man. They're good. They're traveling, and that 65 from when I was growing up, people who were 65, is way different. People are living longer, and that's only going to continue, so that's a huge market. And then look at malls, look at shopping malls. They're going under, right? A lot of these malls are not going to make it through the pandemic because they're already at 60, 50% occupancy. And more people are just buying online. This is probably accelerating what was already going to happen. So what if you married the two? What if you turned a mall into a living, to where you had apartments, and all these thousands of elderly people live there, and within the mall you had your doctors and your food and dentists and every single thing. So these people never, they already have cities like this. But what if you took a failing industry, which is shopping malls, which for the most part are just going to be demoed and houses are going to be built, taking those structures and repurposing them? I don't know, you know what I mean? So lots of ideas like that. You guys can have that one. I'm not running with that idea. That's
Well, Chris, look at was it Fashion Square in Mesa? Like, they're already repurposing that. Like, the hospital bought into it. You got some office space that's going to be in there. You got also medical offices. So I mean, those things can be repurposed, just depending on your area and what the need is, I think. Yep.
Assisted living facilities. We are in the middle of making we had a fix and flip on a house, but it had a huge add-on, and so we framed it out, put in new electric and everything, and added a bathroom, and now it's going to be a group home or an assisted living home. I mean, those things can make $20,000 to $50,000 a month, and depending on what kind of program you have in it. So yeah, definitely thinking outside the box, going different ways with it. Moving blue. All right, that's chapter 5. We're ready for chapter 6. Let's see, these first two. Check my notes real quick. Did we talk about the bigger catchment? I don't think we did. Okay, yeah, so go for the biggest catchment. There's no hard and fast rule to suggest which tier of non-customers you should focus on. To maximize the scale of your blue ocean, you should first reach beyond existing demands to non-customers and desegmentation opportunities as you formulate future strategies. Lastly, be aware that when your competitors succeed in attracting a mass of non-customers with a value innovation move, many of your existing customers may be attracted away because they too may be willing to put their differences aside to gain the offered leap in value. So they talk about focus on the tier that represents the biggest catchment. And look across all tiers, go for the largest catchment that your organization has competence to seize. All right, get the strategic sequence right. The next challenge is to build a robust business model to ensure that you make a healthy profit. This brings us to the fourth principle, get the strategic sequence right. The starting point is buyer utility. Does your offering unlock exceptional utility? Is there a compelling reason for the mass people to buy it? Absent this, there is no blue ocean. All right, so let me ask you guys. Does your offering, what do you offer? What do you sell? And is there a compelling reason for the mass people to buy it? I mean, we have market changes, but right now that's a astounding yes, right? You want to have inventory right now because everybody's a buyer. What happens when it changes though? When you clear the exceptional utility bar, you advance to the second step, which is setting the right strategic price. Remember, a company does not want to rely solely on price to create demand. Key question, is your offering priced to attract the mass of target buyers so they have a compelling ability to pay for your offering? If it is not, they cannot buy it, nor will the offering create an irresistible marketing buzz. What do you guys think? Are they talking about in general, like being one of the more affordable, or are they talking about within your segment? You know, if you're luxury cars, do you want to be providing a high value at a great price? Or are they saying you need to be Hyundai and have a, you know what I mean, for the mass market? What do you guys think about that? What do you think they're talking about? Do you guys even think about pricing in your line of business? Is it just get the maximum amount that someone would pay, or do you strategically price below market? What's your strategy right now?
I like being a little bit below my competitors on things because it builds that loyalty. You know where I'm at, and if I have to move that in any way, or there's problems that arise, such as they do in our business, I don't have a problem with that. I'm not getting fight from that because people know it's just, I'm not trying to get rich off the one-off.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments on that?
I would say it depends on my exit strategy. If I was wholesaling, then a lot of times I would be below just because I started off as a buyer, so I always put myself in their shoes. And so trying to make it a win-win. So I would always price to where I felt like they would be winning in the situation. But if it was a flip, then I would strategically try to price higher, just knowing that I would probably come down anyway. So to me, it always depended on which segment of the business that I was doing.
Yeah, great part. That's two completely different buyer pools, you know, right? And then within it, so you want your guy over here. Yeah, I imagine, like, so if you're a wholesaler and that's part of your business is unloading these deals to fix and flippers, you want them to make money. Like that guy makes money, he's going to be happy. He's going to be glad that he did business with you. Over here on the retail side, for sure, like they don't care about making money. They want a beautiful house. So over here, you know, providing a beautiful product, then, you know, they're willing to pay top dollar, and so you can definitely strategically price it at top dollar. Pat, were you going to say something?
I was gonna say, when I first started in real estate, I worked
I can't hear you. No, yeah, I don't think your sound's working. Okay, no worries, no worries. In a world of real estate sales, it can be tough as well to do this because, you know, you're growing up in a 6% world, 5% world. And so another thing is they talked about is if you do want to be more competitive with your pricing, then you need to also be able to lower the cost of your service. So that may be automating, bringing in technology, you know, not, you know, so it minimizes the use of your time and increases your ability to work with more people. So the sequence of Blue Ocean strategy is first, buyer utility. Is there exceptional buyer utility in your business idea? If no, you need to rethink it. If yes, price. Is your price easily accessible to the target mass of buyers? No, rethink it. So again, though, is within your niche. So if you are selling luxury cars, are you only going to sell the top, or are you going to come in affordably? Are you going to be a mix of the two? Like kind of like Tesla, right? Tesla, we talked about them last week. They're kind of creating their own market. They're creating this great value, but they're not charging as much as they probably could charge. That's what I've noticed. Next is cost. Can you attain your cost target to profit at your strategic price? There you go. There's your cost. If you can drive your prices down, you can charge less. So how can you do that? In the real estate development industry, wood is crazy. So Amazon just bought one of, I think, like 8 mills in North America. There's very few mills left. Amazon just bought one of them, and the only thing they're cranking out of there is corrugated. I'm looking at cardboard. That's all they're doing is producing cardboard boxes. So 1/8 of the industry where we need wood, we need 2x4s, we need compressed wood. Paper companies need paper. You know, there's like so much need, and 1/8 of it is gone. So how can you drive down your costs instead of being affected by that? Can you buy in bulk? Can you invest in a mill? That type of forward thinking, lowering your costs. Adoption. Where are your adoption hurdles in actualizing your business idea? Are you addressing them up front? Which again is great when we're small business because we can just think of that ahead of time. All right, so first was utility. All right, 6 stages. All right, 6 stages, 6 utility levers. Cutting across the stages of the buyer experience, what we call utility levers. The ways in which companies can unlock exceptional utility for buyers. The most commonly used lever is that of customer productivity, in which an offering helps a customer do things better and faster. To test for exceptional utility, companies should check whether their offerings has removed the greatest blocks to utility across the entire buyer experience cycle for customers and non-customers. The greatest blocks to utility often represent the greatest and most pressing opportunities to unlock exceptional value. All right, again, we're talking about real estate for the most of us. In the book, they had the story about the food company. So this food company, they wanted to produce healthy sandwiches and other foods like that, but it was a very competitive market, and so they wanted to be somewhere in between fast food and restaurants. And so that was the main story in the book for this part of it. Did anybody take anything away from that story or from this part of the book? Exceptional utility, creating something that everybody needed to eat, and they thought there was a place in there for them. Uncovering blocks to buyer utility, customer productivity. So we talked about the biggest blocks. What are the biggest blocks in productivity? Simplicity. How can you simplify the process? Convenience, making it convenient for people. And there's so many different ways to do that now with all this technology, making things more convenient. Shopping, shopping for food is a great example. In 5 years, will we even have grocery stores like we do today, or will they just be delivered right to our house, put right into our refrigerator? Any comments on this part of it? Again, I know it's a little dry, a little bit I don't know. Does anybody have anything to share on this part of it? Otherwise, we'll just go through and figure it out. Did you guys find did you have any thoughts about that story? I thought that was a pretty compelling story. Getting the healthy food to their customers in a busy city. All right, here we go. Got one.
Chris, with all the smart technology, your refrigerator, can tell you what you need. So that makes a lot of sense. For sure. There's so many ideas. One of my other ideas back in the day, like 15 years ago, was that you did the SKU on your refrigerator, smart refrigerator, and you scan every time that you put something in, and then it has weights and it tells you when you're running out of food and what you have. And then it would be able to calculate, if they know what you have, what ingredients you have, it could spit out like 4 or 5 meal ideas. You guys can have that one too. That's really cool.
They're probably already working on that. Like, I'm sure they are. There's so much innovation. So just thinking differently. And I know it can be difficult. It can be difficult to think about your own business. You can think about other businesses and always have all these great ideas, but kind of when you're inside the forest, it's hard to see through the trees. You know what I mean? So, and we have such a high dollar product. We sell real estate for the most part. It's not a product that is very widely sold either. So I don't know.
Look at the Zillow. What happened to Zillow? They were buying homes for a while. Now they're not anymore. I guess that's changed a little bit.
Yeah, they got tired of losing money, I think. All right, from exceptional utility to strategic pricing. To secure a strong revenue stream that you're offering, you must set the right strategic price. This ensures buyers will not only want to buy your offering, but also have a compelling ability to pay for it. Go figure. You want people to be able to afford your product. It's increasingly important, however, to know from the start what price will quickly capture the massive target buyers. Companies are discovering that volume generates higher returns than it used to. To a buyer, the value of a product or service may be closely tied to the total number of people using it. There you go. That's a great one. My kid just bought a goddamn $1,200 iPhone. $1,200 iPhone. When did phones get so expensive? And when did it become the norm for us to be paying $1,000 for a phone, right? I remember when I first started using a cell phone, they were pretty much free, right? I mean, did you guys, what was your first cell phone? Did you pay for your first cell phone? I remember I had a flip phone. I didn't pay for that thing. It came free with my line. When was the first time you paid $1,000 for a phone? Did that kind of blow your mind? They made it 0 interest, so no big deal, right?
What's fun? It's funny about that. Like I refuse to go live and all that stuff because I had like, it seems like my phone, like I've cracked it. I got kids that they drop it all the time. But it seems like certain things I can't do on my phone. We just made like a six-figure deal a couple weeks ago, and I still refuse to buy a new phone. I just can't spend $1,000 on a cell phone. Like to me, logically, it just doesn't make sense to waste the money in that fashion. So like, I'm sure people do it, and I'm sure there's great reasons and you can justify it, but in my head, I just don't do it. So I can relate, but I see that and it just boggles my mind. I can't spend $1,200, $1,400 on the phone.
Right. So to a buyer, like they just said, the value of a product may be closely tied to the number of people using it. You know, iPhone, everybody wants an iPhone, right? Everybody has to have a smartphone. Everybody has one. So what's the big deal? And then they said, okay, now how can we make it affordable? Because if we make someone come up with $1,200, they're not gonna buy it because nobody has $1,200. Okay, well let's just we'll just break it down over 2 years. You know, the average person owns a phone about 2 years. So they've turned a phone into your car because they do the same thing with a car. That people don't buy based on price, they buy based on down payment or on monthly payment. And so they make it to where just as soon as you're done paying that thing off, you need a new car or you want a new car. And so it's perpetual. You always have a car payment. You always have a cell phone payment. So for the customer, we know, hey, that's not good, but we're not the customer. We're the company. So how do you do that in your business? How do you make it to where it's a comfortable payment for them and they always want to buy it and they're always going to continue buying it? That's one of the things that made real estate work. They came in with the FHA, they came in with the VA, low down payments. You need very little money. Back in the day, you needed 20%. Back in the day, you needed 100%. They didn't do loans on real estate. So that's how they made this product more affordable. How are we able to sell these for these crazy prices right now? Because they made it affordable. People don't really care that they're paying $100,000 more than they did a year ago because the price is pretty much the same. The price only went up a little bit. And so think about your business. How can you do that? People will not buy a product or service when it is used by few others. As a result of this phenomenon called network externalities, many products and services are an all or nothing proposition. Either you sell millions at once or you sell nothing at all. We see this with cell phones too. I have the Google, which, I mean, maybe I'm biased, but it is a far superior phone to the iPhone. Everybody has an iPhone though. I can't get, my kid has an iPhone, my wife has an iPhone. Everybody has an iPhone because it's cool. It's a superior, it's a far inferior product, so these don't take off because very few people have them. The strategic price you set for your offering must not only attract buyers in large numbers, but also help you retain them. Very good. All right. So the authors developed a tool called the Price Corridor of the Mass to help managers find the right price for an irresistible offer, which, by the way, isn't necessarily the lowest price. The tool involves two distinct but interrelated steps. Identify the price corridor of the mass is step one. The main challenge in determining a strategic price is to understand the price sensitivities to those people who will be comparing the new product or service with a host of very different looking products and services offered outside the group. Secondly, the price bandwidth that captures the largest group of target buyers is the price corridor of the mass. Step two, specify a level within the price corridor. The second part of this tool helps managers to determine how high a price they can afford to set within the corridor without inviting competition from imitation products or services. Interesting. Let's see if I have any notes on that. I don't think so. Any comments on that? Next, we'll move to strategic pricing to target costing. Target costing, the next step in strategic sequence, address the profit side of the business model. To maximize the profit potential of blue ocean idea, the company should start with the strategic price, then deduct its desired profit margin from the price to arrive with a target cost. Man, I wish more of us did this in our businesses. So we did profit first in this book, which is amazing. Amazing book, but this is a great part of it. And within the real estate investing space, this guy Jordan Stanley Payne, who's in the kingdom, he teaches this the best and differently than most people I know. So when you're analyzing real estate deal, for example, we went and we bought a few apartments, and they were like 14, 15% cap rates, just crazy high profit margins. And so that's all we looked at when we took it into account. That, hey, as long as we're buying right, we're going to be okay. We're buying it at a discount. We're buying with a really high cap rate. It's a value add, so we can, go fix it up and we'll be able to raise the prices, right? So we looked at all of it from this aspect, but I didn't look at it from the aspect of how much does my money cost. We just assumed refi would be easy. We assumed we would be able to bring in, 4 or 5% money. But we didn't. So instead of going into the deal with the right profit margins, we didn't, because we didn't go in with affordable money. So we didn't do the final part of it. So in reality, we weren't able to refinance right away. We did have to go a ways. And so because of that, we didn't make money for the first year and a half. So that being said, what I mean by that is we should have said, what's our cost going to be? What is our expected profit margin? And then lastly, how much can we afford for money? How much can we afford to pay? And so we would have been looking at the deal and say, this is good, this is good, this is good. So as long as we find, 7% money, we can move forward. 12% money is not going to cut it, hoping that we're going to eventually get 5% money. Does that make sense? It's just kind of looking at the full picture. When target costing is driven by strategic pricing, however, it's usually aggressive. Part of the challenge of meeting the target cost is addressed in building a strategic profile that not only has divergence, but also focus, which makes a company strip out costs. So you're going to go through, look at your process, see how you can lower the price. Next, from utility price and cost to adoption. We're going to skip that part because we're not $10 million companies yet. We're on our way. What are your thoughts on this middle section, guys? Any ahas, any takeaways? No ahas, no takeaways. All right. I don't know if we'll do this book again. All right, part 3, executing blue ocean strategy. So we will be reading chapter 7, 8, and 9. And I thought those were just appendixes. Let me see. Let's finish the book. Let's finish the book for tomorrow, for next week. Yeah, these are notes and appendices. This really only goes to about 210, and we're on 150, so not too bad. All right, any questions, any thoughts, any last comments before we get going? Does anybody have a suggestion for our next book of the month? Someone suggested 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Do you guys think that that is an implementable book?
I've skimmed that one. That would be probably really good.
Yeah, it has a lot in there, a lot of meat.
7 Habits. All right, maybe we'll look at that one. Any other books that we should be reading? We had The Road Less Stupid on our list, but it's kind of low on print. There's not a lot of books out there, so we'll push that one back. Anybody else have any great books that they've read lately, or they don't even have to be new books, old books that would be good for us to read?
Have we went into cash flow quadrant ever?
Ooh, Cash Flow Quadrant. That's probably my favorite book by Kiyosaki. Yeah, I'll look into that and see how it applies. Again, so that one's kind of more theory though. That just kind of that was the big aha for me, where I didn't even know that existed. You know, I never heard of 4 quadrants. So I'll look into that. Well, I like books where we can actually take action on it and to help propel our business forward. I think most of us have a pretty good knowledge of that. But yeah, man, that book blew my mind. Anybody else?
I think Your Next Move, Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick, can't think of his last name. But it's a new book that he came out. He's on YouTube, and he has a YouTube channel called Value Entertainment.
Would you say your next 5 moves?
Yeah, Your Next 5 Moves. And it just basically just talks about how strategizing your business with your next 5 moves, you know what I mean? And just basically, you know, just don't go into business just blind. Like, make sure that you're strategizing your business and you have a plan.
Oh yeah, I know this guy. I've seen his YouTube. Okay. I'll have to check this one out. Thanks. I will check that one out. This one, I just finished this one. You read this one in like a day. This was a really good one. Your World-Class Assistant. So if you search Michael Hyatt, he's got all kinds of courses. This is a great book, man. I mean, so I have a bunch of VA, and this is bringing me all the way back to the start, because while I started out with a great assistant, I allowed him to be moved up the chain, and so now he runs our real estate business for the most part. But I never replaced him, and having a world-class assistant is huge. Just having your right-hand man or your right-hand woman right there, or right there virtually. So this one, highly recommended. Super short. You can read it in a day or two. And then they have a bunch of things that you can do with it. So maybe we'll hit that one. But and then the other one that I highly recommend, we might run through this one, From 6 to 7 Figures. I just read this one on vacation, and lots of great nuggets in here. And this is a fantastic marketing strategy, guys. Marketing strategy. So this is a company, 2X. They are a business building company, right? So I could hire them as a business consultant. They gave this book away, which they broke even because I paid for the shipping. So they, you know, usually when people do that, that's, you know, they're in it for $6 or $7. But this is how they get their clients. And then they do a fantastic job of hitting you with the email campaign. So think differently. Think differently. How can you do this in your business? How can you get a extreme value, extreme item of value to your customer that they will want to read, that they need to read, or hear, or see, or experience? How can you get in front of your customer differently? That's why we do this. All right. Anything else? Thanks, everybody. I will see you next Friday. Let's finish the book, and then we'll announce the next book of the month. If you show up, you get entered into the raffle for, I'll buy the next book of the month for you. And please share, tell your friends, anybody who loves business and reading, tell them to join the group, join the page, and join us on Fridays.
All right.
Thanks so much, you guys.
All right. Have a good weekend.
Have a good one.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy.